Flight 482 hummed quietly through the late afternoon sky over Nevada, the sun dipping toward the horizon, spilling molten gold across the clouds. Inside, the cabin was calm, almost deceptively ordinary. Passengers reclined in their seats, eyes fixed on phones, laptops, or simply staring into the pale window light. The soft drone of the engines filled the space, interrupted occasionally by a polite announcement from the captain. Among the crowd, Emily Carter sat alone, her hands resting on her lap, fingers brushing a small, worn badge stitched into the inside pocket of her jacket. 13F. Most passengers didn't notice her. Why would they? She looked like anyone else. A woman in her late 20s, dressed in a simple blouse and jacket, hair tied back loosely, eyes that held a quiet intensity that could easily be mistaken for mere daydreaming. Yet there was a tension to her posture, a readiness in the way her shoulders tensed and relaxed, almost imperceptibly. She was listening, always listening. Emily's eyes drifted to the window, where the clouds below were tinged with a pink-orange glow. The sky stretched endlessly, beautiful and unforgiving. For a moment, she allowed herself to enjoy the serene view, the way the sunlight danced across the vapor trails left by other planes far below. But the stillness didn't last. The hum of the plane shifted, subtle at first, almost like the whisper of a secret. Emily's gaze flicked toward the cockpit, noting the faint glow of instruments, the silhouettes of the pilots. A small unease stirred inside her, something she hadn't felt since her last classified mission. Her hand brushed the badge again, feeling the cold metal beneath her fingertips. Not yet, she thought, reassuring herself. Not here, not now. Around her, passengers slept, scrolled, or quietly chatted. A mother adjusted her baby, the child's soft cooing blending with the engine drone. A businessman glanced at his watch, muttering about a meeting in Los Angeles. None of them had any idea that in the very airspace they were traversing, unseen forces were aligning, and that Emily Carter, seemingly just another passenger, was about to become the focus of it all. The first jolt came without warning. The plane shivered, a sudden lurch that drew gasps from nearby passengers. A coffee cup teetered on its tray and spilled, the dark liquid dripping in slow arcs onto the seat below. Emily's eyes snapped open, scanning the cabin for immediate danger. The pilots' silhouettes in the cockpit shifted as they murmured into their headsets. Unidentified aircraft approaching, hold pattern, the intercom crackled, the captain's voice tense but steady, almost too calm. It carried a subtle note of warning that many passengers didn't consciously register. Emily's heartbeat quickened. Her fingers tightened around her badge. Outside, in the vast expanse of sky, two F-22 Raptor fighter jets streaked across radar screens, blipping with precision. In their cockpits, Major Sam Whitaker and Lieutenant Jason Reyes were already puzzled. "Wait, what?" Whitaker muttered, squinting at the flight paths. "Is that 13F?" Jason's brow furrowed. "She's not supposed to be here. That's a commercial flight. There's no way." But the radar didn't lie. 13F, that call sign, belonged to someone the military considered nearly a ghost, someone with credentials that were whispered about in classified corridors and operational briefings. Emily Carter, thought to have retired from active missions years ago, was suddenly visible on every high-level monitoring screen. And for reasons unknown, she was on Flight 482. Inside the cabin, Emily's pulse thrummed steadily, her outward calm a perfect mask. She adjusted her seat slightly, her eyes sweeping the passengers around her. She noticed small details, the nervous tapping of a businessman's fingers, the mother checking her baby's temperature with a digital thermometer, the quiet sigh of a man leaning back in seat 14C. They were ordinary lives, ordinary moments, oblivious to the extraordinary storm unfolding around them. Emily's mind flickered back to her last mission, a covert operation that had nearly cost her life. She remembered the tension, the silent signals, the weight of responsibility. Every movement had mattered, every decision had been critical. And now, the echoes of that life were calling her back. Another jolt rocked the plane. A low warning tone chimed from the cockpit. Passengers shifted in their seats, some gripping armrests, some whispering questions to neighbors. Emily remained still, hands resting lightly on her lap, eyes flicking to the badge. It seemed to hum softly under her touch, almost alive, as though sensing the imminence of what was coming. Then the intercom crackled again, this time a sharper, more urgent voice. Flight 482, unidentified aircraft approaching. All crew, please confirm status. Emily's chest tightened. She knew the voice would not reach her directly, but she understood the implications. Outside, pilots were already positioning themselves, flying into a pattern that would normally be reserved for threats of the highest level. A young boy in seat 13E dropped his toy car. Emily's hand shot out, catching it before it hit the floor. He looked up at her, eyes wide, and she smiled faintly, a soft, reassuring gesture that belied the storm raging just beyond the fuselage. "It's going to be okay," she whispered to him. "I hope it's going to be okay." The plane shuddered again, stronger this time, as if brushing against invisible turbulence. Emily's gaze hardened. She touched the badge once more, feeling the embossed lettering beneath her fingertips. 13F memories of encrypted communications, stealth maneuvers, and life-or-death decisions flooded back. Her lips tightened. She was no longer just a passenger. She hadn't been for a long time. And now, the world above the clouds was beginning to take notice. Outside, the first F-22 came into visual range. Whitaker's eyes narrowed as he scanned the aircraft. Emily Carter, alive, on a commercial flight. "Impossible," he muttered. His fingers hovered over the radio controls. "Call sign 13F, respond immediately," he commanded, voice steady despite the disbelief in his chest. Emily's heart skipped. The sound of her own call sign, spoken across secure channels by an F-22 pilot, was enough to make the cabin feel simultaneously vast and claustrophobic. Her fingers hovered over the badge again. She had not spoken her call sign in years, not since the missions that had left scars, visible and invisible. Yet now, in this quiet, ordinary cabin, she was about to reveal that she was someone far more than a mere passenger. A passenger near the window yawned, oblivious. A flight attendant adjusted her hair, smiling politely. Emily's lips curved into the faintest smirk. The world outside the fuselage had already noticed her. The passengers inside had not. The plane dipped slightly, the sudden motion drawing a murmur from the cabin. Emily's eyes locked on the horizon. She sensed with an almost supernatural clarity that what was coming would change everything. For Flight 482, for herself, for the pilots who had just recognized her on radar, nothing would ever be ordinary again. And then, as if the sky itself had paused to catch its breath, the plane shivered one final time. Emily Carter whispered to herself, just loud enough to feel it echo in her own mind. "They're here." The seatbelt sign blinked violently. Outside, the F-22s maneuvered into formation, engines roaring like twin predators above the clouds. Emily's hand lingered on the badge, her eyes calm but burning with determination. She was no longer invisible. She had never been just a passenger. And now the first move had been made. The intercom crackled again, sharper this time, carrying the captain's strained voice throughout Flight 482. "Attention all passengers. We may be experiencing an unusual air situation. Please remain calm and keep your seatbelts fastened." A wave of nervous murmurs swept through the cabin. A businessman muttered something about protocol, while a young woman clutched her armrest, eyes darting toward the cockpit. But amidst the chaos, Emily Carter remained composed, her fingers brushing the small, worn badge in her jacket pocket, 13F. Her pulse thrummed steadily. She could feel it, not through the hum of the engines, but through the subtle vibration of encrypted signals traveling from the badge, imperceptible to anyone but her. The F-22s outside had already picked up Flight 482's location, and more importantly, they had recognized her call sign. Major Sam Whitaker's voice had pierced the secure airwaves. "Call sign 13F, respond immediately." Emily inhaled slowly, mind racing. Years of training, years of survival instincts honed on missions that had almost killed her, surged back. She glanced around the cabin, noting small details. The young boy next to her still clutched the toy car she had returned to him. A flight attendant was checking drink trays, unaware of the deadly ballet unfolding in the skis above. The world seemed ordinary, blissfully so, but Emily knew the truth. It was about to become anything but. In the skis above Nevada, the two F-22s streaked like shadows across radar screens, engine afterburners glowing as they closed in on the commercial plane. Whitaker's eyes were sharp behind his visor. "She's alive," he muttered, a mixture of disbelief and relief threading his words. "After all these years." His wingman, Lieutenant Jason Reyes, frowned. "You don't mean she's really on a commercial flight? That's impossible. She's supposed to be gone." Whitaker didn't answer immediately. He was analyzing, calculating, considering every possibility. Flight 482 wasn't just another plane. It was a vessel carrying one of the most clandestine operatives he had ever known. And if the enemy, whoever had initiated this scramble, realized it, the consequences could be catastrophic. Back inside the cabin, Emily's hand moved subtly, brushing against the badge, sending a microsignal across the secure channel. A faint hum vibrated through her fingers, unnoticed by anyone else. She could hear the radio chatter faintly through her mental link, a feature from a mission long past, now unexpectedly useful. They're closing in. Too close. The first real tremor of panic rippled through the passengers. The plane shuddered again, a low vibration that shook the drink carts. A coffee cup tipped over, spilling hot liquid onto a tray. People gasped, holding on to the seats in front. The captain's voice cut through the noise again, firmer now. "Ladies and gentlemen, please remain calm. We are experiencing an unusual air situation. There is no immediate danger, but please stay seated and fasten your seatbelts." Emily's eyes narrowed. Immediate danger. There was always immediate danger in her world. She had learned long ago that calm words rarely meant calm reality, and she knew with absolute certainty that the skis above were now anything but calm. Whitaker's F-22 banked sharply, radar blipping with the commercial flight's movements. He muttered under his breath, "How is she controlling it? She's adjusting her altitude, her trajectory from inside the plane." Jason Reyes leaned forward, eyes wide behind the visor. "That's impossible. She's just a passenger." Whitaker shook his head, disbelief etched across his features. "Not just a passenger. Never just a passenger. Not for 13F. Emily, in the cabin, glanced around again, seeing ordinary humans caught in extraordinary circumstances. She thought of the child next to her, the mother adjusting her baby. The man, too, rose behind, nervously flipping through a magazine. None of them had a clue that their flight had become the centerpiece of an unfolding aerial chess game. She tapped the badge lightly, sending another encrypted pulse. Somewhere beyond radar, beyond ordinary sensors, signals shifted. A subtle vibration ran along the cabin floor, a trace detectable only by someone trained to feel it. Emily's lips pressed into a thin line. The enemy was nearing. And the F-22 pilots, those men trained to intercept threats, were now dependent on her, whether they knew it or not. Outside, the sun dipped further, turning the sky a deep crimson. Shadows stretched across the desert below, highlighting the stark terrain with jagged clarity. From high above, the commercial plane seemed small, almost fragile, a mere pinprick in a vast, unforgiving sky. Yet it carried a secret capable of turning the airspace into a battlefield. Inside, Emily's fingers twitched over the badge again. She had to act, but subtly. Any overt movement could alert ordinary passengers or, worse, compromise the delicate communication channel she had just re-established with Whitaker. She drew in a steadying breath. Her mind replayed every scenario she had been trained for, every contingency. She had survived ambushes, covert operations, and life-or-death extractions. None of that compared to the silent stakes of protecting the innocent passengers around her while signaling the only people who could help, without revealing herself outright. Whitaker's voice crackled in her mind, a secure link established without her needing to speak. 13F, if this is really you, we need confirmation. Are you operational? Emily's pulse quickened, but her expression remained calm. She tapped the badge once. 2 small vibrations pulsed beneath her fingertips. Whitaker's eyes widened behind his visor. Confirmed. She's alive. And she's operational, he whispered, awe and relief battling in his voice. Meanwhile, turbulence intensified in the cabin. Passengers held onto armrests, bracing against sudden dips and shudders. Flight attendants worked to calm people down, their professional smiles masking the creeping unease they felt. Emily's gaze swept across the cabin, landing on the young boy again. His wide eyes mirrored her own memories of childhood fear during missions she could never forget. She offered a reassuring nod. "I've got this," she thought silently. A sudden alarm blared in the cockpit. Whitaker and Reyes snapped to attention. Enemy aircraft had appeared on radar, fast-moving, unidentifiable, threatening. "They're closing in," Reyes said, tension cutting through his calm. "Major, Flight 482 isn't equipped to evade them. We can't risk it." Whitaker's jaw tightened. "Then 13F will have to do what we can't." Emily's hand lingered on the badge, sensing the weight of their words. She was just a passenger in the eyes of the world, but in reality she was far more. She had survived impossible odds before, and now, at 30,000 feet with civilians around her and F-22s closing in, she would have to do it again. The plane shuddered violently as a sudden, unseen gust buffeted it. Screams echoed from the aisles. The mother clutched her baby, whispering reassurances she barely believed herself. The businessman gripped his armrests. Emily remained seated, hands steady, mind sharp, heart beating with a rhythm forged in the crucible of classified operations. Whitaker's voice cut through again, steady but urgent. 13F, we're in position. You need to initiate the protocol. Emily's eyes narrowed. Protocol. That word carried the weight of danger, responsibility, and the possibility of saving lives. She glanced at the badge one final time, then looked up at the ceiling, inhaling deeply. Outside, the sun had disappeared completely, leaving a canvas of deep purple and faint stars. The F-22s flanked her plane, silent guardians, their engines humming with lethal precision. And then came the final, unmistakable sign, a ping, subtle but clear, from her badge. The first move in a game of life and death had begun. Emily Carter was no longer merely a passenger. The world above the clouds had noticed her, and the sky itself was about to change. Major Sam Whitaker gripped the control stick of his F-22, jaw tight, eyes scanning every blip on his radar screen. The commercial plane, Flight 482, moved with an odd precision that defied normal physics, a subtle, deliberate adjustment to altitude and heading that no untrained passenger could execute. His mind raced. It can't be, it is. Whitaker's pulse quickened. He keyed the secure radio channel, voice taut. 13F, do you read? Respond. There was no hesitation this time, no coded signal, no hidden hint. The moment the words left his lips, he felt it. A subtle, almost imperceptible acknowledgement transmitted back. A micro-vibration beneath his glove confirmed what he had suspected since the badge blip had appeared on radar. She's alive. She's operational. In the cabin of Flight 482, Emily Carter's gaze remained calm, almost serene. Yet beneath that composed exterior, her mind raced. She had not spoken her call sign in years, not since the covert operations that had left scars deeper than anyone could see. Her fingers brushed the worn metal of the 13F badge, sending a subtle pulse into the encrypted channel she had just reopened with Whitaker. The pilots outside couldn't see her face, but they could sense her intent. Whitaker's F-22 banked slightly, maintaining formation as he studied the plane's subtle maneuvers. She's not just piloting the plane, she's reading the air currents, adjusting trajectory, coordinating, like a ghost in the machine. His wingman, Reyes, swallowed hard. That's impossible. Nobody could do that. She's a passenger. Whitaker shook his head. Not just a passenger, never just a passenger, not for 13F. Inside the cabin, Emily's eyes flicked to the passengers around her. A young boy in 13E was gripping the armrest, his eyes wide with the thrill of turbulence, oblivious to the fact that above them, fighters streaked through the sky, tracking every heartbeat of the flight. The mother next to him whispered soothing words, adjusting the child's blanket. A man too rose behind, nervously checked his briefcase, unaware of the silent aerial chess match unfolding above the clouds. Emily's lips pressed into a thin line. She drew in a slow breath and whispered under her breath, words meant only for herself, focus, one step at a time. Her hand hovered over the badge, ready to send another pulse. Outside, the first enemy aircraft had begun to appear on radar. Whitaker's eyes widened. "They're fast, too fast, and there are more than expected," Reyes muttered. Whitaker's hand clenched around the control stick. "We can't engage them conventionally. Not here. Too many civilians. She's going to have to do what we can't." Emily's gaze sharpened. Protocols she had not touched in years surged to the forefront of her mind. Contingencies, maneuvers, encrypted signals, all designed to neutralize threats while minimizing collateral damage. Her training kicked in automatically, each thought precise, each decision deliberate. She adjusted her posture, sending a barely perceptible signal through the badge. The plane responded, dipping slightly, then leveling again with perfect balance. The passengers around her felt nothing unusual beyond a mild jolt. The reality of her actions was invisible, intangible. Whitaker watched in awe. She's moving it herself. The plane, it's obeying her commands. Reyes shook his head in disbelief. No human can do that, not without a remote system. Whitaker didn't answer. He was too busy tracking enemy aircraft, his hands flying over controls. Radar blips indicated multiple incoming threats, high-speed jets closing the distance fast. "Emily," he whispered into the secure channel, "we need confirmation. Are you in control?" A subtle vibration, imperceptible to anyone else, traveled through Emily's fingers. She nodded, barely audible. "I'm here, I'm ready." The plane shuddered slightly as if acknowledging her command. Passengers murmured softly, adjusting to the sudden turbulence. Emily's eyes scanned each face, ensuring they remained calm. Panic would compromise the subtle signals she was sending to the F-22s. Her training reminded her that one wrong move could lead to disaster. Outside, the Nevada desert stretched endlessly, illuminated by streaks of red and orange from the setting sun. The sky was a canvas of chaos and beauty, the air currents shifting unpredictably. Whitaker banked the F-22 sharply, maintaining formation above the commercial plane. Every movement was calculated, precise. He could see the plane's subtle adjustments, responding to invisible commands, and realized with disbelief that 13F was orchestrating it all from inside. The first enemy blip materialized on radar, a sleek, fast-moving aircraft, unidentifiable by standard sensors. Its trajectory was aggressive, direct toward Flight 482. Whitaker's eyes narrowed. "Emily, it's approaching fast. Be ready." Emily's heart beat steadily, but her fingers twitched in preparation. She could feel the protocols surging through her mind. Years of experience, countless missions, split-second decisions, they all came together in a symphony of precision. She pressed lightly on the badge, sending another pulse. The plane tilted slightly, then corrected itself with seamless precision. Whitaker's eyes widened behind his visor. She's coordinating with the F-22s. It's not just defense, it's strategy." Reyes leaned closer, voice low and tense. "She's orchestrating an entire engagement from a commercial airliner. This is insane." Emily's focus sharpened as the enemy aircraft drew closer. She recalled the details of her last classified mission, codes, maneuvers, escape protocols. Every instinct honed through years of covert operations guided her now. She was no longer just a passenger. Every subtle tilt, every adjustment of the plane was a silent command, a shield for the civilians around her. In the cabin, passengers felt only minor turbulence. Flight attendants continued their rounds, smiles steady, unaware of the deadly precision of their unseen protector. Emily's eyes flicked to the young boy again, and she offered a faint, reassuring nod. "I've got this," she thought. Whitaker's F-22 followed closely, engines roaring, but he could see it. Flight 482 moving with a mastery no ordinary pilot could achieve. "She's incredible," he muttered. "And alive. After all these years, she's alive and doing this." Ray's brow furrowed. "Major, if she's controlling it like this, if she's still operational, why wasn't she deployed? Why did we think she was gone?" Whitaker's eyes never left the plane. "Because 13F always operates in the shadows. She doesn't exist unless she chooses to. And now she's chosen." The first enemy jet closed in, engines screaming, targeting systems locking onto Flight 482. Emily's pulse didn't falter. She tapped the badge, sending a precise signal. The plane dipped, the air currents shifting almost imperceptibly, throwing off the enemy jet's trajectory. The F-22s flanked the intruder, ready to intercept if necessary. Whitaker's voice came through again, tense but controlled. "Emily, whatever you're doing, keep it steady. You're our only chance here." Emily's lips pressed into a determined line. She looked out the window at the fatting desert below, the mountains jagged against the twilight sky. For the first time in years, she felt the full weight of responsibility, the lives of everyone on Flight 482, the pilots above, the unknown threat approaching. She whispered to herself, quiet enough for no one to hear, "I will not fail, not today." The plane shuddered again, the subtle maneuvers invisible to the passengers, yet deadly precise. Outside, the enemy jet faltered, radar blips misaligned. The F-22s adjusted, following the invisible hand guiding Flight 482. Whitaker's eyes widened behind his visor. "She's controlling it from inside. 13F, she's really back." And as the sun disappeared entirely beneath the horizon, leaving only the faint glow of stars, Emily Carter's fingers hovered over the badge. The first moves of a life-or-death game were complete, but the real battle, the one that would test her skills, her nerves, and her resolve, was just beginning. The Nevada sky darkened into a bruised twilight as Flight 482 sliced through clouds like a silver dagger. Below, the desert stretched in jagged shadows, mountains rising like silent sentinels. Inside the cabin, the ordinary hum of the engines masked the extraordinary reality unfolding above. Passengers clutched armrests, adjusted blankets, or whispered to neighbors, blissfully unaware that their flight had become the focal point of a high-stakes aerial confrontation. Emily Carter's fingers hovered over the badge stitched into her jacket. She traced the worn metal with practiced precision, sending a faint pulse across encrypted channels. A subtle hum vibrated beneath her fingertips, imperceptible to anyone else. But in the sky, on the radar screens of two F-22 Raptors, the signals were loud and clear. Major Sam Whitaker and Lieutenant Jason Ray's had fallen silent, their eyes glued to the commercial plane's movements. "This isn't just a flight," Whitaker muttered, voice taut with disbelief. "She's coordinating, something beyond any civilian capacity. She's orchestrating it." Ray swallowed hard. "From inside, she's controlling the plane itself. There's no system on this aircraft that could allow that. She's hacking. No, that's impossible." Whitaker's jaw tightened. "Not hacking, controlling, strategizing. 13F's alive and she's operational. She's everything we've heard about her and more." Inside Flight 482, Emily's mind raced. Years of classified missions flashed before her eyes, the operations no one knew about, the covert extractions, the lives she had saved or failed to save. She had trained for scenarios like this, but nothing prepared her for having to maintain absolute calm while ordinary civilians filled the cabin. One wrong move, one overt gesture, and everything could collapse. She drew in a measured breath, feeling the hum of the badge pulse beneath her fingers. The first enemy blip appeared on the radar, sleek, fast, and aggressive. Whitaker's F-22 banked, keeping formation with Flight 482, engines screaming. Emily adjusted her posture subtly, sending the plane into a minor tilt, a maneuver imperceptible to the passengers but enough to throw off the enemy aircraft's targeting systems. Whitaker's eyes widened. "She's doing it, she's controlling the air currents," he breathed. Reyes shook his head, disbelief etched into his features. "From inside a commercial airliner, that's insane." Emily's lips pressed together. The hum of the badge beneath her fingers was no longer just a signal, it was a lifeline. Each micropulse transmitted across secure channels, guiding the F-22s, coordinating evasive maneuvers, and subtly shifting the plane's trajectory. The passengers remained blissfully unaware. The turbulence they felt was merely the shadow of the invisible war above. Suddenly, the intercom crackled again, the captain's voice tense but attempting calm. "Flight 482, we've received further instructions from air traffic control. Please remain seated. Everything is under control." Emily's heart beat steadily. Control, yes, for now. She allowed herself a brief glance around the cabin. The young boy next to her clutched his toy car, eyes wide with curiosity at the slight dips in altitude. A mother adjusted her baby's blanket, whispering reassurances she barely believed herself. Ordinary lives, fragile and unaware, yet now inextricably bound to Emily's actions. Outside, radar blips multiplied. Enemy aircraft, sleek and aggressive, closed in at alarming speed. Whitaker's F-22 followed precisely, weapons systems primed but restrained. Civilians below demanded caution. Any conventional engagement could be catastrophic. Emily's fingers sent a series of microsignals. The plane shifted imperceptibly, weaving through invisible air currents, evading detection while maintaining the illusion of normal flight. Whitaker's voice cut through the secure channel, tense but steady. "Emily, you're doing it. The protocol, it's working. But we need confirmation. Are you initiating the next step?" Emily's lips curved into the faintest smirk. She recalled the secret protocols from her last high-risk mission, maneuvers designed for extraction, redirection, and evasion. Few people knew of them. Fewer still could execute them with precision. But now, with enemy jets closing in, there was no alternative. She tapped the badge lightly, sending a subtle wave of instructions across the secure channels. The plane responded instantly. A minor dip, almost imperceptible but enough to throw off enemy targeting. Whitaker and Reyes flanked the intruders, engines roaring, yet each knew that the unseen hand guiding the commercial plane was no ordinary pilot. It was 13F Emily Carter, alive, operational, and extraordinary. Inside, she allowed herself a brief pause, taking in the faces of the passengers. Their oblivion was both a blessing and a burden. She would protect them at all costs. The badge pulsed again under her fingers, sending encrypted signals to coordinate with the F-22s. The enemy jets faltered, caught in the invisible currents she manipulated. Whitaker's eyes narrowed. She's invisible out there. Nobody can predict her next move. Every action, every tilt calculated. Reyes's voice trembled slightly. "We thought she was gone. Everyone thought 13F was retired, missing, dead. And here she is orchestrating a defense from inside a passenger plane. It's unreal." Emily pressed her lips together. Unreal, perhaps, but she had been trained for this her entire life. Every subtle adjustment of altitude, every minute correction in speed, every calculated tilt of the fuselage. It was all part of a larger strategy. One misstep could spell disaster. One miscalculation could endanger the passengers. The enemy jets closed further, their engines screaming, aggressive blips on radar. Whitaker's F-22 adjusted formation. He glanced toward Emily's aircraft. The plane moved with precision as if alive, guided by an unseen hand. "She's preparing for the next phase," Whitaker whispered. "She's not just evading, she's strategizing." Emily's fingers lingered on the badge. The hum beneath her fingertips was both a comfort and a warning. She could feel the weight of responsibility pressing down on her, on the passengers, on the F-22s coordinating outside. Every decision had to be precise. Every movement had consequences. Suddenly, another blip appeared, faster, closer, more aggressive than the others. Emily's pulse quickened slightly, but her expression remained calm. She tapped the badge, sending a precise series of microsignals. The plane responded with a subtle banking maneuver, barely noticeable to passengers, but enough to misalign the enemy aircraft's approach. Whitaker's eyes widened in disbelief. She's controlling them too. Not just evading, they're reacting to her movements. It's impossible. Reyes shook his head. She's controlling the battlefield. From inside a commercial airliner. 13F, she's a ghost. Emily allowed herself a single breath, then returned focus to the immediate threat. The protocols demanded precision, timing, and coordination with Whitaker and Reyes. Outside, the F-22s flanked the enemy jets, positioning for interception while staying clear of the civilian aircraft. Every maneuver was synchronized with Emily's subtle commands, invisible to the world but deadly effective. Inside, passengers felt only mild turbulence. A flight attendant smiled reassuringly, unaware of the storm of tactics, strategy, and danger enveloping the plane. Emily's eyes flicked to the young boy, then to the mother and baby. She whispered a silent promise, "I will keep you safe." And then, as the first streaks of night settled over the desert, the badge pulsed one final time, signaling the initiation of the next, most critical maneuver. Emily Carter was no longer a mere passenger. She was a strategist, a guardian, a ghost in the machine, and the invisible war around Flight 482 was only beginning. The sky over Nevada had turned an inky black, streaked with the fading glow of the desert lights far below. Flight 482 sliced through the clouds like a silver bullet, its engines humming steadily, but the calm was deceptive. Outside, radar blips multiplied, each one a deadly potential, enemy jets approaching with terrifying speed, vectors converging directly on the commercial plane. Major Sam Whitaker's F-22 stayed close, engines roaring, eyes scanning every movement. "They're fast," he muttered into the secure channel, voice taut. "Too fast to engage conventionally. If they lock onto Flight 482, it's over. Emily, it's your call." Inside the cabin, Emily Carter's fingers hovered over her 13F badge. The subtle hum vibrated against her fingertips, a reassuring pulse in the tense atmosphere. She glanced at the passengers around her. The young boy in seat 13E clutched his toy car, wide-eyed but oblivious. A mother murmured softly to her sleeping infant. Ordinary lives suspended in the sky, moments from chaos. Emily's jaw tightened. She was no longer a passenger, not for a single second. Every mission, every covert operation she had survived, every life she had protected in darkness had prepared her for this moment. And now, with enemy aircraft closing fast, she had to act with precision, or everyone on this plane would pay the price. Her hand brushed the badge again, sending a calculated pulse across encrypted channels. Outside, the F-22s responded instantly, adjusting formation to intercept threats while leaving Flight 482 room to maneuver. Every tilt of the plane, every slight banking motion, was guided by Emily's hand, imperceptible to the passengers but critical to survival. Whitaker's eyes narrowed. She's controlling it like a ghost. Every movement is precise. She's moving the plane herself. God help anyone who tries to attack it. Ray swallowed hard. How is this even possible? She's a passenger, just a woman in a seat. How? "Stop asking questions," Whitaker snapped. "Focus. She's the only reason everyone's alive right now." The first enemy jet closed in, sleek and black, its nose pointed directly at Flight 482. Whitaker signaled Reyes to flank, weapons systems primed but restrained. Civilians were on board. Any miscalculation could trigger catastrophe. Emily's fingers tapped the badge lightly. The plane dipped subtly, banking almost imperceptibly. The enemy jet overshot by mere meters. Whitaker's jaw tightened. She's evading without being seen. It's insane. The second enemy jet followed, its trajectory faster, more aggressive. Emily's mind worked with unerring precision, recalling escape protocols buried deep in her memory. Each movement calculated, each tilt intentional. The plane became an extension of her body, a silent instrument of defense and strategy. The passengers felt only turbulence, unaware of the deadly precision above their heads. "Emily," Whitaker whispered into the secure channel, voice urgent, "we're taking point, but we can't predict the next wave. Are you ready for them?" Emily exhaled slowly, then sent a subtle pulse. The plane responded immediately, banking left in perfect harmony with the F-22's. Radar blips on Whitaker's screen misaligned, as if the enemy aircraft was being toyed with by an invisible hand. "This is unreal," Reyes muttered. "She's controlling the battlefield from inside a commercial airliner. I can't." A sudden, violent jolt shook the cabin. Passengers gasped, gripping their armrests. A coffee cup toppled, spilling dark liquid across the aisle. Flight attendants called out reassurances, their calm professionalism hiding fear. Emily's eyes flicked to the young boy again, offering a subtle nod. "You're safe. For now." Whitaker's F-22 banked sharply. The enemy aircraft was faster, closing distance at an alarming rate. Emily's pulse didn't falter. Her fingers tapped a precise rhythm on the badge. The plane responded with slight, calculated maneuvers, imperceptible to the untrained eye, but deadly effective. The first enemy jet faltered, engines whining in response to the unseen currents Emily manipulated. Reyes's voice trembled. "They're reacting to her movements. They don't know what hit them. She's controlling them." Emily's lips pressed into a determined line. She thought of the lives on the plane, passengers, crew, even the young boy clutching his toy car. Failure was not an option, not for her, not tonight. She sent another pulse, coordinating with the F-22's. Outside, the enemy jets adjusted, overcorrected, and Whitaker's team moved into lethal positions without ever engaging the civilians. The turbulence intensified in the cabin. Passengers held tightly to seats, murmuring, panicked but unaware of the real danger. Emily's eyes darted around, taking in the ordinary humanity surrounding her. They have no idea, she thought, how close they are to death. Suddenly, a blip appeared on radar, larger, faster, more aggressive than the previous jets. Whitaker's jaw tightened. That's not a standard fighter, it's something else. Larger, faster, heading straight for them. Emily's pulse surged. She understood immediately. This wasn't just a skirmish. It was an assault. A precision strike aimed to end Flight 482 before the F-22s could intervene. Her fingers hovered, sending a calculated wave through the badge. The plane banked slightly, dancing through invisible currents, the enormous threat overshooting by meters. Whitaker's eyes widened. She's predicting its moves, every single one. Reyes shook his head. Impossible, no human can. Emily pressed her lips together. She didn't need words. Her mind raced, calculating trajectories, air currents, enemy behavior. Years of covert missions had trained her for unpredictability, for improvisation, for life-or-death decisions made in an instant. She was no longer a civilian, no longer a passenger. She was 13F alive, operational, and utterly deadly in her control of the battlefield. Another jolt rocked the plane. Passengers gasped. Flight attendants gripped trays, murmuring reassurances. The boy in 13E clutched his toy car tighter. Emily's eyes flicked to him, then to the horizon. Outside, the sky was a canvas of shadows and faint light, the enemy jets weaving, faltering, unable to match the precision of her unseen maneuvers. Whitaker's F-22 moved into position, ready to intercept the larger threat. "Emily, we can engage now," he said, "but only if you give the signal." Her fingers hovered over the badge. A brief pulse sent coordination to the F-22s, signaling the precise timing for engagement. The enemy aircraft faltered, engines screaming, unable to correct its trajectory. Whitaker's team moved in, weapons systems primed but precise, taking down the threat without ever endangering civilians aboard Flight 482. The turbulence lessened, leaving only the faint tremor of controlled maneuvers. Passengers breathed a collective sigh, unaware of how close they had come to disaster. Emily Carter leaned back slightly, jaw tight, eyes scanning the cabin. The ordinary human lives around her were safe for now. Whitaker's voice came over the secure channel, all laced with relief. "You did it, all of it, every move perfect. You've saved them." Emily's lips curved into the faintest smile. She allowed herself a single exhale, but as she glanced at the dark horizon, her expression hardened. The enemy's larger strategy, the reason for their sudden appearance, was still unknown. Flight 482 was safe, for the moment, but the war above the clouds was far from over. And as the plane leveled into a calm glide, a new blip appeared on the radar, larger, faster, and closer than any before. Emily Carter's eyes narrowed. This isn't over. Not yet. Night had fully descended over the Nevada desert, turning the sky into a vast black canvas. Flight 482 cut through the darkness, its silver fuselage glinting faintly under the moonlight. Inside, the cabin hummed with the illusion of normalcy. Passengers murmured softly, oblivious to the invisible war raging above and around them. The engine's steady drone masked the danger closing in at supersonic speed. Emily Carter sat in seat 13F, calm on the surface but sharply alert beneath. Her fingers traced the worn badge in her jacket pocket. 13F, she could feel the faint hum, the subtle vibrations of the secure channel she had re-established with Major Whitaker and Lieutenant Reyes. The enemy was persistent, adaptive. Every movement she made was calculated, every tilt of the plane deliberate. Whitaker's F-22 tracked her plane closely. "Emily, the new blip, faster than any fighter we've encountered, is closing in. It's not just another jet. It's larger, armored, and programmed for intercept. It's a predator." Emily's pulse quickened slightly, but her face betrayed nothing. Years of training kicked in automatically. She had faced impossible odds before, navigating ambushes, covert extractions, and lethal traps in hostile territory. But now, in the cabin of a commercial airliner, she had hundreds of innocent lives depending on her precision. One wrong calculation and all would be lost. The first sign of the new threat appeared outside, a faint, dark silhouette moving faster than radar could track accurately. Whitaker's voice came over the secure channel, taut with urgency. "Emily, it's designed to take down aircraft like yours. We can't guarantee interception. You'll have to guide it yourself." Emily's jaw tightened. She sent a subtle pulse through the badge, coordinating the plane's micro-adjustments with Whitaker's F-22 maneuvers. Flight 482 banked just enough to shift the trajectory, imperceptible to passengers but deadly effective. The enemy jet, unable to predict the pattern, faltered slightly. Reyes gasped through the comms. She's controlling the currents around the plane. The jet's overcompensating. This is unreal." Emily's eyes flicked across the cabin. A mother adjusted her baby's blanket, the child asleep, oblivious. A businessman checked his briefcase, muttering about meetings in Lowe's Angels. Ordinary lives, fragile and unaware, now safeguarded by the ghost in their midst. She tapped the badge again, sending another precise pulse. Outside, the enemy jet corrected, faster this time, engines screaming in the night. Its trajectory was calculated, aggressive, adaptive. Whitaker's F-22 followed, weapons primed but restrained. Emily adjusted Flight 482's altitude subtly, dipping a mere 20 feet to misalign the incoming jet's targeting sensors. Whitaker's voice was taut with disbelief. "She's anticipating its moves, predicting every vector. It's impossible." Emily's lips pressed into a firm line. "Impossible is what I do." She had survived against enemies who assumed she was gone, who believed she had retired. Now, the threat in the sky had underestimated her, and she would not fail, not here, not now. Suddenly, the plane shuddered violently. Passengers gripped their armrests, gasping. A coffee cup tumbled, spilling its contents. Flight attendants reassured passengers, voices calm but masks of fear hiding their awareness of what was really happening. Emily's eyes narrowed. She had been ready for this. The Predator jet adjusted again, engines whining, faster than anything the F-22s had ever tracked. Whitaker's voice came through tense. "Emily, it's tracking exactly how the plane moves. It's learning." Emily's pulse thrummed, but her movements remained precise. She tapped the badge lightly. Micro-adjustments shifted the plane just enough to confuse the incoming jet. The aircraft faltered slightly, engines screaming. The F-22s moved in, flanking, primed to intercept, but Whitaker knew the success depended entirely on Emily. Reyes muttered under his breath. "She's orchestrating the entire engagement from inside a commercial airliner. Nobody ever done this." Emily's mind raced. Every maneuver was critical. She visualized the jet's possible trajectories, calculating responses a fraction of a second before it acted. Years of covert operations, evading enemy fighters, performing extraction maneuvers, all converged in her mind like a perfect machine. She was 13F alive, operational, and now guardian of hundreds of innocent lives. The cabin shuddered again, mild enough that passengers remained unaware of the deadly precision guiding every motion. The young boy in 13E whispered to his toy car, fascinated by the turbulence, unaware of the Predator jet outside. Emily offered a faint nod, her eyes locking on him for a fraction of a second. "You're safe. For now." Whitaker's voice cut through the secure channel. "Emily, I don't know how much longer we can hold it. The jet is adapting faster than we expected. Are you ready for Phase 2? Emily's jaw tightened. Phase 2. The word carried the weight of life and death, of calculated maneuvers and the highest risk protocols. She pressed the badge, sending a series of encrypted signals. Flight 482 banked, dipped, and leveled in perfect synchronization with the F-22s. The enemy jet faltered again, engines screaming, unable to predict her maneuvers. Reyes' voice was barely audible, tinged with awe. "She's controlling the battlefield from inside the plane. She's a ghost." Emily's gaze swept the cabin once more. The passengers remained oblivious. The mother adjusted her baby. The businessman frowned at a laptop, muttering about deadlines. Lives that had no idea the sky above them was a battlefield were being protected by someone they would never even know. She allowed herself a brief, private nod. "I've got this." But the threat was relentless. Another radar blip appeared, faster, larger, more aggressive than before. Emily's pulse didn't falter. Her fingers moved over the badge, sending micropulses in a precise rhythm. The plane responded, a subtle tilt, a minute adjustment in altitude. The Predator jet overshot again. Whitaker's eyes widened behind the visor. "She's predicting every move," he breathed. "Every single move." The cabin shuddered violently. Passengers gripped their armrests, murmuring in confusion. The turbulence was real, but nothing like the danger outside. Emily's eyes narrowed, scanning the horizon. She could feel the pulse of the Predator jet, its engine screaming, the deadly intent behind every calculated move. Whitaker's voice cut through again, tense but calm. "Emily, you're the only one who can neutralize this. Phase 2 is critical. Are you ready?" Emily pressed the badge one last time for the sequence. The plane tilted slightly, the subtle banking imperceptible to passengers but perfect for the incoming jet. Engines screamed outside, radar blips jittered, and the F-22s moved in exact coordination. Whitaker's voice was taut with awe. She's controlling everything, from inside a passenger plane. Nobody can." Emily's jaw tightened. She allowed herself no distractions. One move, one tilt, one pulse at a time. The Predator jet faltered, miscalculating its trajectory, and the F-22 struck, intercepting with precision that saved every civilian on Flight 482. The cabin steadied. Passengers murmured softly, oblivious to the near catastrophe they had survived. Emily leaned back, jaw tight, eyes scanning the horizon. The invisible war had been won, for now, but the night was far from over. And as the first streaks of dawn began to touch the horizon, a new blip appeared on radar, larger, more dangerous, closer than any before. Emily Carter's eyes narrowed. This isn't the end, not yet. The Nevada night had deepened into an almost tangible blackness. The desert below was a jagged silhouette stretching endlessly under the faint shimmer of starlight. Flight 482 glided silently through the sky, yet the calm was an illusion. Above, two F-22s flanked the commercial plane, engines screaming softly, their pilots tense and focused. Radar screens flickered, displaying blips that represented deadly intent, enemy aircraft converging with terrifying precision. Emily Carter sat in seat 13F, her body still, eyes sharp. Fingers hovered over the worn metal badge. 13F, every muscle, every nerve, every fraction of a thought was dedicated to one thing: keeping the passengers alive. Her lips pressed together in determination. The Predator jets were relentless, faster, smarter, and more adaptive than anything she had encountered before. Every miscalculation could be fatal. Whitaker's F-22 streaked alongside the plane, eyes fixed on radar, voice tight with urgency. Emily, the new formation. They're coordinating, 3 vectors converging. This isn't a standard engagement, it's a trap. You'll need to initiate the final maneuver. Emily's jaw tightened. Phase 3. Years of high-risk operations surged to the forefront of her memory. The protocols for impossible situations, the contingency plans for lives under immediate threat, the maneuvers she had only ever practiced in simulations. Every second counted. One false move, one miscalculation, and hundreds of lives would be lost. Inside the cabin, passengers murmured quietly, adjusting to minor turbulence, blissfully unaware of the calculated chaos outside. The young boy in 13E pressed his toy car to his chest. A mother whispered to her sleeping infant. Emily's gaze flicked over them, then back to the badge. They trust me to keep them safe, and I will. The first enemy jet surged, engines roaring, banking toward the commercial plane with lethal intent. Emily tapped the badge, sending a micropulse. Flight 482 dipped subtly, a movement imperceptible to the passengers but deadly effective. The jet overshot slightly, forced to correct its course. Whitaker's eyes widened behind the visor. She's controlling the plane, predicting the jet's every move, he whispered, awe-threading his words. Reyes shook his head, disbelief etched into his features. From inside a commercial plane, how is this even possible? Emily's mind was elsewhere, focused entirely on the maneuvers. She sent another pulse, coordinating with the F-22s. Flight 482 banked and tilted in perfect synchronization. The enemy aircraft faltered again, engines whining as they struggled to adapt. Emily's calculations were flawless. Each subtle adjustment manipulated the air currents, creating invisible barriers and channels that guided the Predator jets away from the plane. Whitaker's voice broke the tense silence. Emily, this is it, the final maneuver. You need to bring them down without risking the passengers. Are you ready? Emily's pulse surged, but her movements remained calm, precise. Ready, always ready. She tapped the badge one last time, initiating the ultimate sequence. Flight 482 shifted slightly to the left, then banked sharply, a move so subtle it seemed like ordinary turbulence. The F-22s moved in exact coordination, flanking the enemy jets with lethal precision. The Predator jets responded, engines screaming in the night, unable to predict the invisible currents guiding the commercial plane. One jet faltered, miscalculating its trajectory. The second followed. The third, largest and fastest, lunged forward with terrifying speed. Emily's fingers pressed the badge with deliberate precision. The plane dipped, the air currents manipulated flawlessly, and the jet overshot again, colliding with the formation of the other 2 enemy aircraft in a miscalculated maneuver that forced them into retreat. Whitaker's eyes widened in disbelief. She did it, she actually did it. Phase 3 complete. They're gone. Reyes swallowed hard. How? She's just a passenger, She's 13F, Whitaker interrupted, awe and relief threading his voice. She's alive, and she's operational, don't ever forget it. Inside, Emily allowed herself a fraction of relief, but she didn't relax. Her eyes scanned the horizon, alert for any other threats. Passengers murmured softly, adjusting armrests, none the wiser to the invisible war that had just played out around them. A flight attendant smiled reassuringly, unaware that the calm air was the result of precise, life-saving orchestration by a single, extraordinary individual. Emily's gaze swept over the young boy, the mother, the businessmen, the ordinary humans oblivious to how close they had come to death. She gave a subtle nod, invisible to everyone but herself. Safe, for now. Whitaker's voice came through again, softer this time, tinged with awe. Emily, you've saved them, every single one, and all without them knowing. After everything, you're still 13F alive. Perfect. Incredible. Emily allowed herself the faintest smile. The battle was over for now, but her mind remained sharp, scanning for potential threats, calculating contingencies. She had survived impossible odds before. She had maneuvered through situations no ordinary human could endure. And tonight, she had protected hundreds of innocent lives without a single person suspecting her true identity. Reyes's voice trembled slightly. Major, she's a legend. From inside a passenger plane, controlling the battlefield, saving lives, orchestrating maneuvers that defy logic. Whitaker exhaled, shoulders relaxing slightly. Legends don't disappear, Reyes, they hide. And when the world needs them, they come back. That's 13F, that's Emily Carter. The desert below stretched endlessly, mountains silhouetted against the early dawn. Flight 482 glided smoothly now, the turbulence a memory of the night's invisible battle. The F-22s maintained formation, engines humming, radar clear. The immediate threat was neutralized, but Emily's eyes remained sharp, alert for any sign of lingering danger. Inside the cabin, passengers yawned, stretched, whispered about the minor bumps in the air. No one suspected the truth. Flight attendants continued their rounds, smiles professional, masks of composure hiding the tension Emily had orchestrated. The young boy smiled at his toy car, blissfully unaware that a ghost had just saved him from imminent death. Emily pressed the badge lightly, sending a final pulse across the secure channel to Whitaker and Reyes. The connection confirmed the F-22s were secure, the Predator jets neutralized. Her hands fell to her lap, body relaxing fractionally. She had done it. Whitaker's voice, calm now, resonated with respect. Emily, the world may never know, but we do, and that's enough. You've done the impossible again. Emily nodded subtly. She had lived in the shadows for years, trained for invisibility, survival, and precision. She had been underestimated, presumed gone, and yet here she was, alive, operational, and victorious. But she knew better than anyone that this was never truly over. The invisible war she had fought, the threats she had neutralized, were only the beginning. The first rays of sunlight began to touch the desert horizon, painting the landscape in muted golds and purples. Flight 482 glided smoothly now, the passengers unaware of the battle that had raged above them, the lives that had been saved by a ghost in their midst. Emily Carter leaned back, jaw tight, eyes scanning the horizon. The war in the sky had been won, but Emily knew that the next challenge, the next threat would come, and when it did, she would be ready. And as the sun rose over the jagged peaks of Nevada, Emily Carter, known only to a few as 13F, allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction. She had faced impossible odds, orchestrated a battle from the shadows, and saved hundreds of lives without a single person suspecting her presence. But in the depths of her mind, one thought remained. The skis are never truly safe, and I will always be ready. The first golden rays of dawn stretched across the Nevada desert, illuminating the jagged mountain ridges with an ethereal glow. Flight 482 glided smoothly now, engines humming a gentle rhythm. Inside, the cabin was calm, passengers stirring, unaware of the invisible battle that had raged above them just hours earlier. Ordinary people whispered about the minor turbulence, adjusted seatbelts, and stretched limbs, none suspecting the extraordinary events that had unfolded. Emily Carter leaned back in her seat, the worn 13F badge warm beneath her fingers. The hum of the encrypted signal had faded as the Predator jets had been neutralized, leaving a rare, precious silence in its wake. Her mind, however, remained alert, scanning the horizon with instincts honed over years of covert operations. She had faced the impossible and emerged victorious, but she knew better than anyone that safety in the skis was temporary. Major Sam Whitaker and Lieutenant Jason Reyes flew alongside in their F-22s, engines softening as they coordinated the final escort. Whitaker's voice came over the secure channel, calm but tinged with awe. "Emily, you've done it. Every life on Flight 482 is safe. The Predator jets are gone. You're remarkable." Emily allowed herself a small, almost imperceptible smile. "It's not over," she murmured quietly. "Not for the world, not for the skis. Threats always lingered beyond the horizon in places no one could see. But she had survived this night and she had protected the innocent. That was enough for now." The young boy in 13E yawned, pressing his toy car to his chest. A mother adjusted her sleeping infant, whispering soothing words. The passengers remained blissfully unaware of how close they had come to disaster. Emily's gaze softened as she looked around. Her identity as 13F was a secret, an invisible mantle she had carried for years. And here she had lived that secret fully, saving lives without recognition, without applause. Whitaker's voice came again, quieter now, almost reflective. "You're a ghost, a guardian no one can see but everyone depends on. You've reminded me what truly means." Emily's mind drifted briefly to the mission she had undertaken in silence, the extractions that had left scars she would never show, the lives she had saved without thanks, the enemies she had outmaneuvered without notice. She had lived in the shadows for a reason. Visibility was danger. Recognition was vulnerability. Tonight had proven once again that she was best unseen, a ghost protecting those who could never understand her role. The Predator jets were gone, but Emily's eyes remained fixed on the horizon. Every instinct told her to remain alert. The battle was never truly over. Threats lingered, hidden, waiting, adaptive. But tonight had tested her skills, her instincts, her calm under pressure, and she had passed. Ray spoke hesitantly, almost reverently. "Emily, the world doesn't know what you've done. The passengers, the F-22s, nobody can imagine what just happened. You saved everyone." Emily's lips curved faintly. "They'll never know, and that's how it should be. Lives saved quietly are the ones that count the most." She glanced down at the badge in her hand. 13F, a life defined by secrecy, duty, and precision. A life lived in the shadows, but a life that mattered. The sun climbed higher, bathing the desert in light. Flight 482 maintained its steady glide, the passengers now relaxed, some stretching, some murmuring to one another, none suspecting the invisible guardian among them. Emily's eyes drifted to the young boy again. He smiled faintly at his toy, and she allowed herself a tiny nod of reassurance. "Safe, always." Whitaker's voice broke the silence one final time. "Emily, if the world ever knew what you'd done tonight, they'd never forget you." Emily pressed the badge lightly, sending a final pulse into the secure channel. The F-22s adjusted, engines softening as they prepared to leave Flight 482 to continue its journey. "They'll never know," she replied. "And that's the point. I don't fight for recognition. I fight because it matters." The two F-22s banked and climbed, disappearing into the horizon. The Predator jets were neutralized. Flight 482 was safe, and yet the world above the clouds remained a dangerous place. Emily's eyes, sharp and unrelenting, scanned the skis one last time. She had survived tonight, orchestrated a battle from inside a commercial airliner, and saved hundreds without a single passenger ever suspecting the danger. Inside, the cabin settled into routine. Flight attendants smiled, passengers yawned, and the ordinary hum of life resumed. The young boy hugged his toy car, unaware of the war fought in silence around him. Emily leaned back, hands resting on her lap, feeling the subtle vibrations of her badge calm as the encrypted channel went silent. And yet deep inside, Emily knew that the night had not changed who she was or the world she moved in. 13F was alive, operational, and invisible, and she would always be ready. Threats would come, dangers would rise, and the skis would never be truly safe. But she was there, always ready, always watching, always protecting. As the sun's light spilled fully across the desert, Emily Carter allowed herself a deep breath. She had faced impossible odds, orchestrated a battlefield from the shadows, and emerged victorious. She had saved hundreds of lives without their knowing, and yet the hum of vigilance remained in her mind. A final glance around the cabin revealed ordinary people, blissfully unaware, living lives she had preserved. She smiled faintly, almost imperceptibly. The world may never know, but it doesn't need to. Whitaker's voice came softly over the secure channel, no longer tense, filled with respect. Emily, the legend of 13F is real, and you're living it. Emily pressed the badge once more, sending a subtle pulse, a silent acknowledgement, a promise to always be ready. The plane's instruments returned to normal, turbulence faded, and Flight 482 continued toward Los Angeles. And as the city lights began to sparkle in the distance, the invisible guardian in 13F seat reclined slightly, eyes still scanning, heart still alert, and mind ever ready for the next invisible threat. The passengers would never know what had transpired above the clouds, but Emily Carter would always remember. Because she wasn't just a passenger, she was 13F alive, operational, and forever the silent guardian. The skis were safe for now,